All right, there we go. We're good. We got a great person in the background, Nathan. And give a shout out to Nathan, doing wonderful. All right, now we have some live Q&A. Again, as with the last session, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the question panel for us. We're going to start, and Virgil, I think you have that's a comment versus a question, but if it is a question, rephrase it for me as a question. But his comment was, you can test solar things. So we're going to move on from that comment. I do have live with me Will Hilliard, who, by the way, in case you were a little confused, he is not the CEO of Mislabeled. If anyone was reading that thing under Tom Guest, it did not lose his job overnight. He is still the CEO. We're good. And neither did Coast Guard lose one of their prized possessions in Will Hilliard. So everything's all good. All right. That was just a test to see who was paying attention. And congratulations, Will, for paying attention. So for my first question is, the question is, Safe Kids Worldwide has received reports of listings for online sales of life jackets that say U.S. Coast Guard approved, but once received are not approved. How do we help parents in this type of situation? And I will go to Will, but then we may also rope in Gordon on that question. Go ahead, Will.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, speaking of counterfeit, yes, I am not the CEO of of NASBA. I think Tom was getting ready to kill me in the background to make sure that wasn't going to ever happen. But yeah, so in regards to things that are listed as Coast Guard approved, but if you think that they're not, we actually have a government email address, type approval at uscg.mil. You can also route it through RBS compliance at uscg.mil. Either way, we will definitely address that. Utilizing the CG Mix web page that was talked about earlier, you can validate to see whether or not the that product is indeed Coast Guard approved or not. If you think it isn't, let us know. It's something that we can definitely look into.
Terrific. Gordon, do you have anything to add? Do you think that we'll handle that successfully?
Yeah, I do think, as I kind of said in my presentation, I do think that, quite frankly, UL has big lawyers. And if it's got a UL mark on it, as well as something else that doesn't say U.S. Coast Guard approved or it appears to be fake, that's a great path. They will absolutely enforce their mark. They actually have a little more latitude in that than as I understand it, than USCG does. But the other space is to, make sure you get in contact with whoever you bought it from immediately and say, look, you're selling this product under false pretense, or you sent me the wrong thing. It could be both of those things or neither, but that's obviously a pursuit, and it's a little scary that that's happening to safe kids. That seems rather unfortunate.
All right, our next question comes from someone who is a marine enforcement officer, and he wants to know what's the easiest way to check for counterfeit items while doing a vessel safety inspection? Will.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're looking for is the Coast Guard approval number. It's going to start with a 160 for life jackets. That is the easiest way to tell. If you have any suspicion, again, I constantly point back to the CG Mix web page, because that's how you would validate that. Typically, we haven't seen any counterfeit product that does have the approval number on it. We do typically see the words U.S. Coast Guard approved or some variation of that is listed. So that's looking for the approval numbers is definitely the key to ensuring that you have a correct product.
Great, thank you. Next question for Gordon. Why can I buy a life jacket that is not approved? How is that even legal?
So there's basically very little restriction in the U.S. market in terms of what's being able to be offered for sale. So as long as it's not fraudulent, and saying something that's ISO 9001 certified, or saying something that is ISO certified or some other certification make it look like it's a U.S. Coast Guard approval, but they're not saying that necessarily. You have to, it's caveat emptor, it's buyer beware. It really is a situation where you need to be paying attention to the listing. And I think Steve said it in his earlier presentation. If it looks too good to be true from a pricing standpoint, well, it might be too good to be true. Because the testing involved is quite rigorous and not inexpensive, and it's quite frankly difficult to support that with an inexpensive product. So I don't know. Does that seem
Yeah.
right, Stacy?
Yeah. Thank you. And so some of these questions kind of overlap a little bit, but just going to read them as they are, and you can add to what you've already said, either to you, Gordon, or you will. And I'll get to a question for Steve too, because I think he's still online. But the next question is, how best can recreational sites make aquatic recreators aware of subpar and counterfeit gear before they head to the dock? We could put up signage, but we'd rather get to them before they make the trip out.
Is that for me, Stacy? Yes. So yeah, that's a great question. Right now, I can tell you we've reached out and been working with Amazon. They've actually been putting educational materials for boating safety equipment on their website. That's the direction we're trying to move towards, so that the typical buyer, if they're looking at a life jacket, if they're looking at nav lights, in the future, they'll be able to click on something from the Coast Guard to say, here, buyer, educate yourself on this before you make that purchase, before you make that purchase that looks too good to be true, and that's just what you want to get, because it might not be the right thing. Secondly, it's a big challenge for us because some of the e-tailers are foreign entities. And I'll just say it, Alibaba, Temu, those are Chinese-owned entities, and it's very difficult to work with some of those companies, because we could tell them, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. And their end goal is to just be able to push out the product and get it to the U.S. as fast and cheap as they can, so they can just make the money on it. Luckily, having some U.S. Reputable companies that are willing to work with us, and for us to be able to push out a safety message along with that product, I think that's a good direction for us to go. But it is a challenge for us because the e-tailers are popping up more and more and more. We're seeing more frequent, e-tailers that are coming online these days. So it's a challenge for us. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, but we're doing the best we can as we see these products pop up.
Great. And so a follow-up to that, I'm going to ask Steve this. It's a follow-up. So I just kind of want to get from your perspective, because you manufacture these. What kind of things do you think you can do as a manufacturer to help take down counterfeit safety items from major retailers?
Well, in the question of Amazon, we have complained to Amazon about the products that are listed as Coast Guard approved. Their response so far has been, we don't have standing to make them take it down. Only the Coast Guard would. They're not infringing on any of our copyrighted material. So as far as Amazon is concerned, we don't have standing to file a complaint against them. Walmart's the same way. So they're allowing these mainly Chinese manufacturers, to put these products up there saying Coast Guard approved, with no backup, no justification, and no certification for their products.
Gordon, anything to add to that? Because I know you actually come from it from both the UL side and the Mustang survival side. Anything to add?
I think that's pretty well covered. I mean, again, it's a very gray area. It is people are allowed to put product into the marketplace as long as it's not fraudulently being sold. There's very little that we can do as a manufacturer, or that even the regulatory and agencies like Coast Guard can do to pull product down as long as it's not making some kind of fraudulent claim. And for the most part, they don't. They just intimate that it's okay for use.
Good. Thank you. So this is an interesting question, and I'm not sure who can answer this question. But we're using AI for everything. And so the question is, can we use AI to help technology to help identify counterfeit products online before they can be purchased? Anyone?
Well, from my perspective, I can barely get my printer to connect to the computer. So I would definitely defer to much smarter people than I on that one. But I think it's an interesting point, and I think it's definitely with AI is getting better and better and better, and it's something that I think we could definitely look into in the future.
Stacy, there is one positive use of AI that Amazon is using on the mobile app. Some products will have an audio track describing the product, especially if you're looking on your phone, not so much on your computer, where they will actually take the information that we have put in the listing and have a conversation about the advantages and disadvantages of the product. So they are using AI in kind of a beta format right now on Amazon.
That's great. Great to know. So as I've said before, you can always put comments and this is more of a comment to put the email that you guys mentioned in the chat. Now, I will say we don't really have the chat for here each session, but we do have a chat in the lobby. So I will get someone to put that email for the compliance in the chat for everyone to have that. All right. So the next question is from Texas, Cody Jones. I think I don't know if y'all know this, but there is a contest for the most questions, and Cody is in the running. So I just, anybody else, come on and, you can catch up. There are many sessions, but here we go. Cody asks, has the Coast Guard ever considered a consumer complaint line or email that must be included on the labeled products so consumers have an avenue to report a potential defect? And I'm going to ask Will that question.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and we're always looking for, the good ideas to see what we can look at in the future. I don't know if on the product itself how helpful it would be, because if the manufacturer is counterfeiting or mislabeling, especially intentionally, I don't know if they would actually include the helpline or whatnot as well. We do have, again, I'm just reiterating from earlier, if it's a life jacket related issue, we do have the type of approval at uscg.mil, and we also have the RBS compliance at uscg.mil. Getting some of that information and maybe pushing it out into the future is a good idea. We are, like I said before, we are collaborating with Amazon. They're one of the biggest e-tailers, and it's something that we could talk to them about in the future.
Terrific. All right, my next question, I'm probably going to ask everybody this, so I'll start with you, Steve. Just be ready, teed up. Are there any other safety items that are counterfeit we should be aware of, like life rings, auto lights attached to PFDs, throw ropes? And then the last part of it is, can we share the U.S. Coast Guard link to required safety items on a vessel? So that first part of the question, do you know of any other ones, Steve?
Not currently. What we're seeing, what's concerning is like the strobe lights that are so-called Coast Guard approved. If you look at Amazon, they sold 500 of them last month. So somebody is buying them. And again, it's really about education. Even Boating Magazine just had an article on getting your boat ready for the season and started talking about strobe lights. And it's like, those are not visual distress signals. They're good to have. They're an adjunct to your flares or your electronic visual distress signal. But if people like Boating Magazine can't educate people properly, how are we supposed to reach the consumer?
Gordon, do you have anything to add? Any particular product you've seen?
No, I was actually kind of going to jump back to all certified PFDs that are inflatable come with an owner's manual. And typically those at the back will have a variety of contact information for consumers to reach out. And some of that is Red Cross, Transport Canada, but U.S. Coast Guard is also on that list. So there are some spaces as well, of course, to the manufacturer. But as Will pointed out, if somebody's counterfeiting a product, it's probably not going to be a legitimate manufacturer that's reaching out and responding to emails.
And Will, yep.
So, just to recap on that, nav lights, visual distress signals, life jackets, that's what we're currently seeing, but it does not mean that we might not see stuff in the future as well. Right now, the Bluetooth engine cutoff switches, for example, right? That's something that's still relatively new to the industry. However, there's always a potential for an open door as more and more manufacturers of that kind of product come online. The people that are doing the counterfeiting or pushing it out from overseas, they're going to see an opportunity or a window to make some money in those arenas as well. So it's something that we also have to be looking at for all the other products as well.
And so somebody comment the Coast Guard MIC website, right? So we will put that in the chat, but that does have manufacturers like the equipment, not just boat manufacturers, because this person and me too thought that you would only have the vessel manufacturers on that site.
The uscgboating.org website for the mix or the manufacturer identification codes, that is only specific to vessels, the vessel manufacturers.
Did you mention another website or for equipment? Go ahead.
Stacy, CGMix dot mil, CGMix, CGOx.mic has a section where I pulled on menu where you can look at approved equipment. So it's not just hull registrations. And then as Gordon showed, you can put the manufacturer name in and it will list all the products that manufacturer has Coast Guard approval for.
Thanks, Steve. Can I ask you a favor to put that link in the chat in the lobby for everybody?
I will
You don't
try.
have to do it right now. You can do it at our break. So
Okay.
Or Gordon, one of you two. So thank you.
Okay.
And then, so somebody asked to clarify the federal requirement for visual distress signal 3-day, 3-night pyro versus 1-day, 1-night non-pyro. Do you want to do that, Will? You want me to?
Yeah, Stacy, if you want to take it away. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna let you do it. Your Coast Guard.
I'm going to defer to Stephen actually as the VDS expert.
Perfect.
Yeah, the Coast Guard requirement says you have to have 3-day or night visual distress signals. So everyone's been used to buying a 3-pack or 4-pack of handheld flares forever. Of course, the 4-pack now is a 3-pack, but it's the same price. So you're getting 25% less for the same money. Aerial flares are considered nighttime visual distress signals. The handheld flares are night and day. You can be compliant with the Coast Guard requirements with a nighttime visual distress signal and an electronic visual distress signal, either a single color white or white and infrared, or the RTCM standard is the 2-color light, which is red, orange, and cyan, which is, again, is only a nighttime visual distress signal. So the orange flag is considered a daytime visual distress signal in the US, but not by Transport Canada.
Terrific. Well, we're rounding up the end of this session. Anything else the panelists want to add to our discussion?
I just note, Stacy, that I dropped the CG mix into the chat, but I'm not sure it's going out to the entire webinar. So I think you guys need to propagate it further.
Yeah, we'll work on that. Thank you. So, well, whoop.
Coming in.
Oh boy, this is awesome. Oh shoot, wait. I hit the button wrong. Okay. So this is a question from Japan. In Japan, there is only one standard for life jackets, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism standard, which is based on the U.S. Coast Guard standard. However, this standard is only required for people on boats. There are no life jacket standards for other marine activities. How is a life jacket standard applicable to all marine activities communicated in the United States? And I'll direct this either to Will, and then Gordon can chime in too.
Oh, that's a great question. So the requirement that the Coast Guard sets forth is only for the carriage requirement for the vessels themselves. Once we get outside of that window, when we're talking about whether it's for use at a beach or a pool, then I think I'm not as very well versed in that area. So I think at that point, I might kick it over to Gordon to see if he has anything else to add to that one.
I do, and only in the sense that there isn't. This is a space that's actually a hot button topic within the industry, and we spend a lot of time in the Life Jacket Association talking about this right now, and developing standards for spaces outside of the boating activity space, which is clearly the purview of USCG, but the rest of it is not. And it's becoming very much an issue, and we're actually working hard to figure out the best approach to that.
And there is one final, like, kind of question-y thing in the chat and in the question answers, and he's just kind of clarifying that the strobe is not a visual distress signal. And I think one of the keys is that Steve mentioned, you have to look for the Coast Guard approval and the number to be approved. So that's what you're looking for that. So a strobe that has that would be Coast Guard approved, would be used. Is that correct, Will, as I said it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Well, that is wrapping up this session. I want to thank our presenters, Will, who is, again, not the CEO of NASBLA, but still a valued member nonetheless. Gordon and Steve for chiming in on this Q&A. We have a break for lunch. That's awesome, right? Lunch is not provided, but you can provide it for yourself. It's our midday break. We will have a great lineup this afternoon of more exciting presentations and Q&A. Don't forget to think of some good questions to ask in the question and answer panel. And so we are taking a break, and we're going to start back up at 1:30, okay? So you'll go to the lobby and hit that start for that next 1:30 session. And with that, we will see you after lunch.